This past year, we just went to Six Flags Magic Mountain's Fright Fest, and man, oh man, oh man, do I have a lot to talk about. I want to really go over our total experience with going there. This was our first time ever going there as people that love going to Halloween hunts. I want to talk about how scary the mazes were, how was the scare zones, how was actually just layout, and how actually the crowd level was, and just everything about this event. But spoiler alert, I think this event is going to be on our must-go-to list every single year. We're talking about that today. Let's get it. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Villains of Horror. If you like horror movies and haunted attractions and anything in between, you're in the right place, so hit the subscribe button. But I want to talk about Six Flags Fright Fest. So, like I said, this was our first time ever going to this event. We have been going to horror events, for the past couple of years, all in the Southern California area. We've also gone to other events. So yeah, we've been going to horror events for the past couple of years, but we never actually made it out to Six Flags. And I know that seems kind of weird, especially if you like horror events. Why not go out to Six Flags? This past year was our first time actually making that trek out there. And I was pleasantly surprised. So before this, my only really experience with going to a Six Flags event was back from where we're from, Buffalo, New York. We have Darien Lake Six Flags there. I think back when I was younger, there used to be a haunted Fright Fest there as well. I don't actually remember going to that event when I was much younger, so I don't really have much of a frame of reference. Wasn't really sure how they were going to do things with Six Flags, but yeah, I figured if we're going to do it for the first time at a Six Flags, why not do it at Magic Mountain? And yeah, honestly, I was pleasantly surprised. So the first thing I want to say, yeah, our first time actually going to this theme park, we actually wind up going during the day. We just went to the park just like normal, and then when it turned to Fright Fest at night, we stayed there. So this was a full day at the park, and I do want to say really quickly, the park itself was really fun. If you like roller coasters, you'll have a great time there. We did go on a lot of rides. It was fun. I was tired by the end of it, but it was a whole bunch of fun just doing that section. And now that Cedar Fair and Six Flags have merged, we definitely plan on going to Six Flags Magic Mountain a lot more, and there'll probably a whole bunch of other Six Flags theme parks in the future, so stay tuned for that. But some of the main things I really wanted to go over was I was really impressed with how many mazes they really had. I believe it was 11 mazes and multiple scare zones at Fright Fest. One of the big standout things was just that they had so many different mazes and so many different attractions there. That was one of the things that I was really impressed with. Yes, I do want to say the production value on some of the mazes, it isn't going to be something at the level of a Horror Nights, but I still think it was really fun for what it was. I know one of the big things a lot of people were making a big fuss about was last year with Stranger Things, because it was at Fright Fest, whereas in the past it was at Horror Nights. And yes, there was some letdown moments, especially at the very end, because Vecna was really just kind of like a statue that was there instead of a big giant display. But I can forgive it for that, because if there was actually some pretty good scares just inside of the maze itself. But honestly, I think that is part of the charm. I want to say when it comes down to production value of everything, it is a step up from something really small. It may not be on the most grandest of scales, but I really like the way everything kind of came together. And for us, we actually went when we had a friend in town, and we did a ton of different horror events during this week-long period. So we went and we saw a ton of different things, but one thing I do want to mention was just the crowd levels. I think that the crowd levels there, it was still fairly packed, if you want to say. So it was enough people to really have a nice atmosphere, but it wasn't overly packed where we were waiting in line for hours upon hours. That was one thing I really did like. So I want to say to get through most of the mazes, it took us maybe 20-25 minutes to get through the line. There were some mazes that took us a little bit longer, but we had still plenty of time to do everything. And even at the end of the night, when there were still a couple mazes we were trying to do, we were able to just walk straight in and there was no one else in line. So I really liked that aspect of it, that it was still packed enough that it felt like the park was still lively and booming, and there was a lot of stuff happening, but it wasn't overly packed where it felt like we couldn't move. We could only do 2 mazes at a time. So I really liked that aspect of it. I do think that the theming of the park was actually done fairly well as well. The scare zones were, at least in my opinion, they were a little bit sparse. It did take us a while to kind of figure out where the scare zones were and try to, see where all the actors were. But once we found them, I thought that they were fairly well done. I know if they had the big clowns and everything like that, that was pretty cool. There was a DJ in one section, so that was also really cool. Kind of had like a party vibe, but also still scary. So I thought that was actually executed very, very well. I also do think the scare actors there were fairly interactive. They did talk to us as well, which I did like. So that is one of the things that you get from haunted attractions when it's not at a full scale, when there's a ton of people. The scare actors can be a little bit more personalized. They can come up to you, talk to you a little bit, kind of, you know, come at you. So I did like that aspect, especially in like one of the sections. I forgot, it was like we were going down a hill. Some of the scare actors, like there wasn't many other people in the scare zone, so they just came over to us and they were just like talking to us the whole time. So stuff like that I do actually like, and I thought that was like very well executed. So when it comes down to scare zones and like the overall atmosphere just out and about walking around the theme park, I would give it a solid, you know, 6 out of 10. I think that was like really cool. Was it scary? Yes, but you can avoid certain sections if you don't really want to like interact with them. You could do that, but I do think overall it was pretty nice. Now when it comes down to actually the mazes themselves, so the mazes, like I said, there was a lot of mazes, and so some of them were executed well, some of them I thought they were just fine. Stranger Things, I think actually that was our first one that we did, and I would say at the end it was a letdown because like Vecna was just like a statue that was kind of just there, so that it was a little bit funny. But I do think honestly in that maze we got actually a pretty good amount of scares, mostly because it had these guys in these like gully like camouflage suits that like just kept popping out. Honestly, those things scared me probably the most, just because they just kept popping out. You know, really couldn't see them at all. So I thought that was cool. So when it comes down to like scares, that was executed well. Probably by far my favorite scare there was in the Conjuring maze. There was a section where the demon came out of the picture frame, like what they did inside of the movie. It was nice that it wasn't so crowded that they pulsed us through the actual maze, and there was a person there that told us like, hey, you might want to slow down because here comes a really cool scare that you don't want to miss. So I thought that was actually like really nice. And yeah, let me say that was really cool when just to see that scare, she like literally like came out of the like picture frame, even though we kind of knew it was going to happen, but it was all happening in slow motion. That, I don't know, it all came together like really well. Honestly, probably one of my favorite scares from any like haunted house that I can think of in recent memories. Like that was a really cool section where like I was like, oh, that was done well. But I do think overall there was a nice variety of mazes. There were some mazes that were like outside. I want to say like one of their big mazes, it was kind of like an outside atmosphere. That was pretty cool. It reminded me of like the Queen Mary and like some like Horror Night stuff where like you're kind of outside. So I thought that was interesting. There were some mazes that felt a little bit spread out, like there wasn't a ton of scare actors in them. I don't know if that was like a staffing issue, but like I think overall they were done fairly well. I did enjoy myself when it comes down to the actual mazes. It could be better, I would say though. So I would say like my biggest critique is like some of the mazes there wasn't exactly fully staffed. So there was some sections where we were just walking through like I don't really see anyone. Is someone supposed to scare me? But that actually kind of like helped out the atmosphere because it kind of was like I don't know if someone's gonna jump out because I don't see anyone at all. So like it did make it like when someone did pop out extra just scary, just because you weren't expecting them, or it was just like a big buildup of just being like, I know someone's in here, I don't know where they're at, so whenever they come it's going to be scary. So that actually did kind of help out that overall experience. But I would say overall I think the mazes, they were good. So it's definitely a step up from like something like San Diego SeaWorld or like the smaller haunts, but it wasn't quite at the level of Horror Nights or anything like that. I would say honestly, you know, like Not Scary Farm is still like a higher production value than this. I mean, I know it's a little bit unfair because like Not Scary Farm, a lot of their mazes are just like they're there all the time, so they're making small tweaks and everything like that. But I do really hope, since like Cedar Fair and Six Flags are merging, they can both kind of take elements from each other and, you know, boost each other up. So I'd be interested to see how that goes in the future. One of the other things I do want to mention now with Six Flags Magic Mountain, it is like literally on the side of a mountain, so it is spread out fairly wide and like decently. I think that helped the element. Like some areas felt more crowded, other areas felt a little bit more died down with just like how many people were there, especially as the night grew on and more people were like leaving, because we stayed like fairly late. I want to say like till like close. About time the end of it, when we were just walking around, it felt like we were the only people there. I know we did a couple mazes when it was just us, pretty much. It was just like a walk on. We just like walked right up to it and they were like, come on in. That was pretty cool. It was kind of, I mean, it definitely like helped the element of it being more scary, especially when there's no one else in front of you. So like all the scare actors, they're like, all right, these are our only people, let's go at them. So I did like that. We've had a similar scenario happen when we went to Horror Nights. I want to say actually last year, I think one of the last nights that it was there, it was like closing night. And I remember we were on the lower lot at Horror Nights and we went through Insidious and we went through Ghostbusters. I remember we went through Insidious. We were literally like the second to last people to go through. They closed it right after us, and like some workers actually like went in like after us. So like that was really cool. We were like the last bunch to go through. I think that was honestly like on closing night, if I remember correctly. And that gave me that same type of vibe where it was just like, all right, it's like pretty much closed. Like this is the end, like you're going through. And then we also got a chance to go through Ghostbusters, and that was like literally just us. Like as we were about to leave, the workers were just like, come on, just jump in. So we were like, all right, I guess we're gonna do it. It really heightened the haunted house, because I would say before, Ghostbusters really wasn't that scary just overall, but going through it by yourself, it definitely like added to it, because every single scare actor just popped out right at us. So yeah, I think that was a cool element. So if you can go and stay like late, I think it really does help, because I don't know, it's just you, it just helps build up that experience. So if you're looking for like something like extreme like that, I would say try that out. But who I think this event is for, if you're looking to go to Fright Fest, like who is this for? I think it's a good mixture. You know, I did see people with like their kids, and I did see older people. So if you're just like a, you know, straight up like a horror fanatic and you love this type of stuff, I think you'll have a good time. If you're looking for a place to come with your kids, I think you would also have a good time though too. It wasn't like crazy like our level, you know, type of gore or anything like that. I think it was still like, I would say like a good like PG-13 overall. It was scary. There was some scares. There's some ghouls walking around. But I think if you like that type of stuff, I think you'll be fine. For me personally, I thought it was good. I love going to all things like horror events and stuff like that. So like for me, for sure, this is definitely like on our list that we plan on going multiple times during the Halloween season. Like I said, this was our first time going this past year, but I want to go more and more definitely this year coming up. But overall, I would probably give our experience a good 8 out of 10. I think it was a fun time. Was it the most scariest thing I've ever gone to? No, but it really wasn't like looking for that. So I was really just looking for like a really good time and just something different and unique. And honestly, I feel like Six Flags Magic Mountain Fright Fest is a nice little niche inside of the whole like horror events, you know, sphere. So if you're looking for something like that, definitely go check it out. But yeah, speaking of that, I remember actually during that same week, we did wind up going to the Queen Mary Dark Harbor, and man, that I can say was a real fun time. That is for sure on our list to go to every single year. I did a review video on that right here, so check that out. That was a great time. Really fun stuff that happened there. And there was like something that they did there that I've never seen in any other haunted house attraction. So I'll see you over there, guys. See ya.